Is Novatech on the brink of collapse? This is an update on the video I did just yesterday, and it shows we're on Etherscan on the publicly viewable blockchain, and we're looking at this particular wallet address, OX069ACF, etc., which is known to be an account that is operated by Novatech FX, and we can see here the balance on this account. It reached a peak of just around $22.3 million on Friday the 18th of November. That was just 4 days before the desist and refrain order by California. That has caused a stampede of people to make withdrawals, and just in the last 24 hours there's been another $1.3 million withdrawn. If that was to happen in the next 24 hours, that would be the end of this account here. It would be down to zero. At the moment there is just 290,000 USDT in that account, in that wallet, and it was 22.3 million just 43 days ago. So it's a tremendous outflow of money, and I'm not saying this is the only wallet that Novatech have. It's unlikely to be the only wallet. This is the USD tether. There could be many USD tethers, but there could also be many Bitcoin and many Litecoin wallets. But the point is, people are clearly withdrawing their money. This is not Novatech just potentially withdrawing their money for themselves. This is people making withdrawal requests, and hence it's going down. Now, someone did respond. I saw another YouTube video where someone said, well, the same thing happened in May and it didn't collapse, so therefore it's not a Ponzi scheme. Well, let's have a closer look. I thought that would make a good subject for today's video. Look at the specific details for what happened in May, and we can zoom in just to bring this into image a bit clearer here. I'm going to show you the spreadsheet in a moment. I'm just going to take a moment to break at this point in the video to mention the sponsors. If you're looking for a place where you can put your money to work, where it can substantially increase in value, then I highly recommend VC Crowd. It's a small investment club. I've been with them since 2015. I'm currently sat on a profit of over 170,000 US dollars. You can join from anywhere in the world, and what they do as a club is they go and invest in early stage companies like they do on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den on TV. They go and make investments in carefully selected companies that they think have huge growth potential. So we've got LifeSafe, IOS Bio, Vism Technologies, Total Environmental Solutions, Happy Drinks Company, Rockstar, Simply Pay Me, Xcademy, Tex, and so on. These are all high growth potential companies, and if you get in early enough in a small company that becomes a big company, a big global brand, then you can make an absolute fortune. That's what VC Crowd does. They have a team of expert advisors. You don't need to know anything about investing at all. You simply join the club, you pay a monthly subscription, and every month you receive shares up to the value of your subscription. Very simple, set and forget. Let's get back to the video. But that's just a message from my sponsor. Helps, like I said, fund me doing these videos. Let's go back and look at this particular thing that happened on the 13th of May. So on the 12th of May, there was 1.6 million in the account. By the 13th of May, it was down to 166,000. So just under 1.6 million withdrawn net transfer out from this. Remember, this is the same wallet, same address that we're talking about now, where the money is flowing out in multiple millions rather than just the 1.6 million that there was back in May. So let's have like I said, a closer look at what happened there. So on this spreadsheet here, I've got the actual, there were 3 transactions in particular that stood out for me on the 13th of May. They all happened within the space of 18 minutes. There was one at 21:27, one at 21:27 and 12 seconds and 40 seconds, and one at 21:45. They all came from this same wallet address of OX069ACF, and they all went to the same address as well, which is highly suspicious to have 3 separate withdrawals all going to the same address. The total amount was $1.663 million. That all went out within 18 minutes to one specific address. Now, to me, that seems highly suspicious. I would propose that that's probably someone within Novatech withdrawing funds for their own purposes. Now, why would they want funds in particular on the 13th of May? It could well be that they were thinking, look, we've had a good enough run. They just opened USD Tether. There may have been some warning signs that they were getting. Perhaps the regulators were looking at them. We are talking, I think it was August, that the Bank of Russia issued their fraud alert. But that's a fair bit later. That didn't seem to have too much effect. Most of the investors, being in America, wouldn't probably give much credence to the Russian bank warning, even though it's legitimate as any other fraud warning, because it doesn't matter who's running that, it's just a simple fraud warning. So it won't have been that. So what caused this $1.6 million outflow within 18 minutes to one specific address? And that fundamentally is what this entire collapse was here. Now, I propose, like I said, that that would be someone within Novatech withdrawing money for their own purposes, siphoning that money off, perhaps to buy a big boat, perhaps a new house or something like that. But what I do find interesting, that that was the 13th of May, and on the 25th of May, the Petions sold their house in Florida. This is the details for the house in Florida. I'll put a link in the description below. And we've got the evidence and proof that this was indeed their house. They sold that for $1.008 million on the 25th of May. So that was just 11 days later. My biggest suspicion is that they bought a bigger house somewhere else, probably have left the USA. I have had people contact me anonymously again saying, yep, the Petions, Cynthia and Eddy, are no longer in the USA. They have evidence of that. Not something that I can give, because that would probably reveal their specific details, and they wish to remain anonymous. But I have a lot of confidence they have actually left the USA. So I think there could have been discussions within Novatech between Eddy, Cynthia and Ricardo, that they may have said, well, should we close it down? Should we just take the money out? Should we just close it down now? But then look at the funds coming back in again. And very much like Bernie Madoff, once it got running, it's now at that point where it's been very difficult for them to close it down, because it is just making them so much money. Now, if we just look at the outflow of money again on this particular wallet address, let's just refresh this page. So some inflowing money now, back to 294,000, which is a drop in the ocean, considering there are now probably in the region of 400,000 accounts that have been created at Novatech FX. I suspect around 300,000 would be genuine, 100,000 are people just testing and so on. But when you look at the money that has been flowing out just in the last 24 hours, clearly there are some big leaders who are withdrawing money. They realize the game is up. They are saying to themselves, yes, this is a Ponzi scheme. You know, just look at the chart. That money is flowing out incredibly fast. Potentially this could have a matter of days left, and Cynthia and Eddy Petion are going to have to come up with some excuse. I think one of the excuses they will come up with, they've already started this potentially, is to reduce the potential rewards that are being paid out. I know last week it was down at 1.25%. The other thing actually which is of note is that the 13th of May, if you go back into the back office and you look at the performance rewards, then May the 13th was the worst week they'd ever had, where they quoted a 0.65% return. Now, isn't that also very interesting? The same week that they had a massive withdrawal, May the 13th, of 1.6 million to what looks to be private addresses rather than to a whole group of the investors at Novatech, that was siphoned out, and to be able to fund the payout that week without sending the Ponzi into a complete crash, they had to reduce the payout down to 0.65%. Does that make more sense to you than a case of actually their trading collapsed and they only managed to get 0.65% in that particular week? The coincidences are way beyond just normal coincidences. So yeah, that's something to keep an eye out for in the next coming weeks if it manages to survive a few more weeks. I think it's fairly inevitable that Novatech will come up with some excuses and say the trading has been awful. They'll use the seasonal excuse. They may well use some crypto babble if they can find some news stories that would kind of coincide with that. I don't think they will go negative with their returns. They've never done that, and I think if they did that, that would just speed up the withdrawals rather than slowing down. What they need to do if they're running the Ponzi scheme is slow down those withdrawals and increase the inflow of money. But as with all Ponzi schemes, if the inflow of money is lower than the outflow of money, then a collapse is happening, and once that collapse starts to happen, it will gather pace. Let me give you an example as well. Going through the transactions just in the last 24 hours. Let's just paste this one in. Okay, so here's an address here that received money from Novatech just in 10 hours ago, and it's the address OXF1923. And we can see 10 hours 10 minutes ago, or 10 hours 14 minutes ago, they received from the OX069ACF account from Novatech, they received $84,954 worth of USD Tether, and within 4 minutes that had been transferred to Coinbase. But when you look at this person's account, this is probably their same wallet they use all the time, so 122 days ago, so they first would have joined Novatech, and again each time it's from the Novatech wallet address. The money flows out, so they took out $4,354, and then another 7 days later 4,150, another 7 days later 4,100, another 7 days later. So we're doing it weekly. This was probably their seed capital or something like that. Take out the 4,000, and then they stopped for a good period of time until they took another 4,000 out there. Then another week later 1,800, another week later 2,300, and another week later 2,400. But now they've realized the end is happening. They've taken out 84,954. That is just in the last 10 hours. So that is a clear indication of a leader, presumably a fair amount of income from sponsorship, introducing other people into the Ponzi scheme. They are now taking their money out. So that's not a deniable thing. So people who say to me, Paul, you're just making up figures. No, this is on the blockchain. This is clear. It's going to Coinbase. It's from Novatech, and it's 84,954. This person has never taken out that much in one go. So yes, leaders are taking out money fast because they are understanding it's collapsing. The leaders will never admit that. There'll be no one in the comments on this video that will say, yep, I believe it's a Ponzi scheme, I'm taking out an absolute fortune, from anyone who has sponsored a lot of people. And there's a very clear reason why they wouldn't openly, publicly admit that, and that's simply because their downlines will be irate with them. Because if the leader has basically come to the conclusion, yes, this is a Ponzi scheme, I do need to get my money out before it collapses, then they have basically used fraud and deception to sponsor those people into their network and get them into the business. So it's a really, really difficult position they're in morally to work out. So this person, whoever this is, and it may be someone watching this video, taking out 84,000, let's call it $85,000, they are going to find it very difficult to admit to their downline, all the people they've sponsored, this looks like it's a Ponzi scheme, because anyone who comes in after someone, they have far less time to actually get their money out. And there are still delays. There's massive delays now which are growing for people making withdrawals. That's the second method that Novatech will use potentially to stop the collapse, and that is simply to introduce further and further delays of the withdrawal on money, because that will help keep the funds in the accounts for longer, to try and suck in some more money, which they will then siphon off. The longer they keep it going, the more money they'll be able to siphon off. So all we can do from this point is watch and see. But if you do have money in Novatech, hopefully I'm giving you more and more evidence that this is a Ponzi scheme. Hopefully you will be listening to me as an independent person. I have no vested interest. It makes no difference to me fundamentally what you do, whether you decide to withdraw your money or not. That's not the purpose of my video. My video is to save as many people from having their money stolen by fraud and deceit. Which is what Ponzi schemes are. They obtain money by fraud and deception. There's plenty of warnings out now, 6 official warnings. We can see here the wallet address is that money is flowing out really fast now. Again, if Novatech are totally genuinely making their astronomical returns every week, then there's nothing to worry about. So there's no need to call out hatred for me either. I'm simply trying to help people who are smart enough to stop and look at some alternative facts and figures and evidence and say, you know what, Paul, I think you're right. I think Novatech is a Ponzi scheme. I need to change my mind. I need to get my money out and keep that safe. So that's the whole purpose of these videos. Again, one little reminder, if you found this useful, if you think you would like to put your money in some investments that are properly regulated, into real businesses where you can track the results of those businesses, you can see what those businesses are doing, then do check out VC Crowd. It's an exciting chance to get in very early on in small businesses that go on, and you've got that potential therefore to look at 50x, 100x times returns on your money. I'm not saying that's what you're going to get, but that's the potential with something like VC Crowd. Link in the description. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.